so we'll start a little late. That's okay. You got a starred review from Publishers Weekly, which is fantastic. Had this to say, quote, "The plot is as well crafted as it is thought provoking. Parker writes with confidence, insight, and real humanity." So tell us about Then She Vanished.
Okay. Yeah, happy to. That's a good review. It always starts the publication season well when you can get a review like that from Publishers Weekly.
For sure.
You know, in a nutshell, the book is it's a thriller. It's a PI story. It's set now. Takes place now. My hero and protagonist is a man named Roland Ford, who specializes in missing persons. The book begins in kind of classic PI fashion. He is in his office. A man walks in. Roland recognizes the man to be his California State Assembly representative in his district, a man that he was in Iraq with during the Battle of Fallujah. And this assemblyman's wife has vanished. She's been gone for 24 hours. Her car's gone. Her purse is gone. She's gone. She's not communicated with anyone. Nobody knows where she is. She's done this before. The assemblyman swiftly hires Roland to locate her. The police aren't particularly interested because she's only been gone a day, and most missing spouses return, they say, statistically. So anyway, Roland is hired on page 1 to find Natalie, and complications ensue and things spiral, kind of out of control for Roland really quickly. And what appears to be kind of an open and shut, missing persons, runaway spouse case becomes something much more complicated and much more really kind of sinister.
Love it. Okay, just a couple quick comments before we get to your question, Adrian. Gabe's on with us, and Gabriel Barilla says hi, so we need to say hi to Gabe.
All right, hi Gabe. Good deal.
And then Gail says, "Hi everyone, delighted to be watching tonight. Jeff, there's no way to prepare yourself for this." I agree. We're going to bring it to you. Good call, Gail. All right, Adrian, off to you with a question.
Well, I've been a fan of your books ever since Silent Joe. And I love the fact that you're writing a series. And I really have always loved a good PI series. So was there an inspiration for Roland's character?
There are many, Adrian. I've always been a PI fan also, just as a reader and as a TV watcher and a movie watcher, and so always have liked the form very much. And it took me many, many years to come to the point where I realized it was time for me to try to write a good PI novel, So, I look to the great PIs of, I look to Marlowe, and I look to J.J. Gittes, and I look to, John D. McDonald's, Travis McGee, and I look to all the kind of iconic, PIs throughout the ages. And as Roland, who tells the story, mentions at the beginning, the very first page of the book, the PIs have kind of changed a little bit in his view, and he says, and I agree, that we live in meaner times now. The old noir times are kind of gone, and there's much less of a sense of black and white and good and bad. Now things are much more complicated, I think, and I think in our country in the past couple of years, we have proven ourselves to be I think a mean-spirited and a violent and a complaining nation in a lot of ways, and there's a lot of hatred in the air and a lot of division in the air, and Roland feels that, and so Roland on page 2 of the book says, these are meaner times, and we PIs maybe are a little meaner too. And so Roland's a tough character. He's a good-hearted guy, but he also brings into the battlefield, a highly tuned moral compass, and he does not suffer fools and wicked people very, very, very easily. So that's kind of my guy. He's kind of a composite of the good things that I found in all the PIs that I've read, and from Rockford to Marlowe.
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting. I've often, you can kind of guess his age based upon the fact that he was in the war and which war and everything, but I finally figured out his actual age when there's a part in here where you refer to how old he was when the towers fell. And it was like, oh, because I find when I read a character like Roland, I really want a visual, something that I can sort of frame.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it helped me to also place him at a specific age. I don't know
Yeah.
why that was so important to
Well,
me,
I'm
but
the same way as a reader. I really wanted to have my feet on the ground as far as what the person looks like and how old they are. And, that brings up an interesting question because all these Roland Ford books are first-person tales. Roland is telling you the story literally. So, I as an author find myself in a difficult position of having, Roland describe himself. Well, I've got, handsome jaw and a cleft, dimple and, killer smile and, wavy, black hair. Roland can't do that or he'll seem foppish, So,
yeah.
I tried to sketch him in a little bit physically as a big guy, dark hair, plenty of it, kind of a lean build, tall but lean, former boxer in the Marines, former Marine, that kind of thing. Marines always seem to be, kind of wiry and kind of muscular and stuff. So anyway, that's Roland as I see him now. Somebody told me once, I think it was Michael Connolly. I think it was he commented on trying to describe Bosch and his other characters minimally rather than thoroughly, so that readers could form their own pictures of that person, that character in their mind. And I think there's something to be said for that. I think that's kind of what I'm trying to do with Roland.
One of my favorite recurring things through the series is the irregulars and the compound. So I'm curious, is that based on a real location?
No, it's not. Again, that's kind of a composite sketch of the many beautiful estates, I guess you would call them, haciendas, that I have seen in and around North San Diego County where I live. So it's not based on anyone specifically at all. It's kind of highlights from the ones that I've visited and maybe have seen pictures of and that kind of thing. So no, that his compound his hacienda doesn't really exist. And the irregulars who are there, just for the audience who isn't familiar with the story really, Roland is a widower and he inherited upon his wife's death, 5 years ago, this compound. It was their wedding present. They married into a very rich family. And he ends up with this place. It's where he lives after his wife passes. And it's a big old Spanish style, mission style home. It's over 100 years old, and it's got casitas, six little casitas built around this pond, this spring-fed pond that's on the property. And early on in the series, Roland rents each of those casitas, with the exception of one. He keeps it open for emergencies, but he rents the other 5 casitas to 5 really interesting people. They treat as them as tenant, and that's kind of their basis of a relationship. And they have a funny relationship. There's a lot of humor between them, and the underlying reason for those irregulars, for me creating those, was to write this widower and this kind of strong, silent type guy, and put him out in this hacienda, this rolling hills, this beautiful old school, old world kind of place, that he's going to be awfully quiet, and I'm not going to have much for him to say, except when he's working on a case. I invented these casitas. I gave him this casitas, and I gave him the ability to rent them out and pick his tenants. And so the irregulars change a little bit over the course of the books. They're never the same 5 people, but some of them are. And they're kind of, for me, one, they're a Greek chorus that kind of comment on the on the action. They can tell Roland right to his face that they don't like the woman that he's interested in now. They can tell him right to his face that, well, I think she's really good and you should pursue her. And they'll give him comments and opinions that he doesn't want at all, all the time. So he always has somebody, that's bouncing stuff off of him. And also the irregulars, because they are kind of funny and eccentric and speak their minds, they kind of carburate a very dark story with some humor and some fresh air. And I really look forward to writing those scenes because of that. They bring some nice, I I think, quirky humanity to the kind of dark assignments and the dark worlds that Roland finds himself a part of.
We got a couple comments in from the Facebook world. Lisa Foster says,
Wow.
"Hi, I'm here and have my copy of the book in hand." So thanks, Lisa.
Nice.
And then Tom
Thank
Leach,
you.
"Timing is good. He just finished reading another Roland Ford mystery, The Room of White Fires.
Oh.
Ties to our Mideast wars and complications, and it was intriguing." So that's Tom Leach's info. And I just wanted to tell people that, because we have some people joining us a little bit later, that you can go back to Facebook and watch this from the beginning. So it will reside on Facebook for everybody so that they can catch the conversation, and it'll also be on our YouTube page. So Jeff, when we were talking in the green room a little bit before, we were talking about writing a series, and that how was it for you writing this one, and what do you want to tell, if you have anything to tell us on it? Was it easy? Was it hard? Is it, what was the writing process on this one?
Writing is not to be self-pitying, but writing is always hard, but I enjoy it. Novels are long and complicated and complex, and when you sit down to begin a novel, you've got a war on your hands. It's going to last a while, and you need endurance and you need inspiration to be victorious. And for me, this series has been a wonderful way to write about where I live and in the world around me. One of the reasons that I chose to move to Fallbrook 20 years ago from Orange County was because I saw in Fallbrook that do see a very represented American small town. I think we're Main Street America in a lot of ways. And I value that and I treasure that. And I love that about Fallbrook. And not only are we kind of Main Street America in that we're diverse and we have different economic and social layers and levels and cultures and races and religions here. It's all kind of mixed up nicely. There's that. And there's also, there's a nice art community here, some good artists. And there's also a wonderful conjunction with the outer world in the form of Camp Pendleton, which is next door. And I see the Marines coming and going all the time. And I've interviewed them and introduced myself to them. And I've been out to Pendleton several times teaching things, talking to the Marines. And the world, our American world, our American history is one of endless war since 9/11. And these guys that I talk to, women, are the ones, prosecuting that war. And so Fallbrook is Main Street America, but it's not insular at all. It opens, I am able to experience, I have to experience those wars through the people that I've talked to here. Fallbrook. I mean, one guy I met at the Shell station, because we were both getting gas at the same, recognized him as a returning Marine, struck up a conversation and got to know him pretty well. And that's just an example of the way this little town can, the way the world can come into this little town. And for a writer to have access to both Main Street America and the money, military might, and military, thinking of Camp Pendleton is really it's a nice combo. So it's a long way of saying that these 4 books have given me a chance to write about Fallbrook in the small sense, the immediate sense of what it looks like, and the compound where he lives, and Main Street. He talks about the old classic cars driving by, stuff. He's got an office, Roland, right on Main Street, but it's also allowed me access to, the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, and, on into the future, I suppose. And so I value the small-townedness and the panorama of American life and military might kind of parading, before my very eyes. It's good material if you're a writer.
And you probably have you have an obligation to your characters, to your storytelling, but also to your readers too. So you have to kind of fit all of that in.
Yeah, definitely. I felt very obligated to write about our young military people about the time I moved to Fallbrook 20 years. I mean, because I've seen them, like I said, on the street and in the stores and all that kind of thing. And as the years went by and the wars continued, all the way all the way up until now, kind of, I guess you can say they're still going on. I felt that the face of America was that. And that is who we are as a people. We are young men fighting and women fighting overseas a lot over questionable prizes. And so I wanted to be a part of that in a way, and kind of report on that and dramatize that in the people and the characters of my book, in the form of Marines coming home from that war through Camp Pendleton. I never served. I was eligible for the draft 1 year when I turned 18, and that was, I think, 1972. The Vietnam War was winding down, and I drew. The draft was in place, and I drew my draft number that year as an 18-year-old was 354, I think. So I was almost at 365, which would be the last person to be called. And they were only calling people up the year before to like number 60 or some such thing. Wow. So I did not serve, and I always have felt not an obligation to our military servicemen and women, but a respect for and a true thanks for what they have often done and sacrificed. So writing about them is kind of my way of admiring them and offering a little bit back and bringing their lives to the big page, if you will.
Yeah. All right, Adrienne, on to you.
So Dalton, his character is ripped from the headlines. Was that based on anyone, or was it just kind of a generic corruption in politics is always a good theme?
well, Dalton Strait is kind of a corrupt politician out of central casting, and I created him out of he's a composite sketch of a lot of politicians who I've read about and seen on TV and sometimes met and talked to. So he's kind of the consummate corrupt politician, if you will. And I think one of the really interesting things about life to me is the public face versus the private face. And in Dalton Strait, we have a politician who you can be no more public than that. Maybe a celebrity, but and he's kind of both. He's a kind of a celebrity politician, and so he has his shtick, he has his look, and he has his brusque attitude and his handsome, rugged, good Marine Corps looks, and he's outspoken, and he's real right wing, and he says what's on his mind, and he's a hard charger, and he's very charming in a lot of ways and stuff, and people love it. But what is going on underneath him? What is he really like? Why does his wife vanish? What is he like to his children? What's he like when you're having a beer with him? What's he like when he comes into your office and you're a PI and he sits down and he hoists off his artificial prosthetic calf and throws it at you? Who is this guy? What's going on with him? And so this is an unmasking, if you will, or a revealing of a public figure, and it's kind of delicious to get to do that to a fictional figure. I mean, I would never base a character on Joe and then show him private life that I have imagined. You can't do that as a writer. You have to do an imaginary character, and that's when it becomes fun, and that's when you're free to create a believable, fun character that people will be interested to read. So that's my Dalton story. I love the scene where he comes into, I like that first scene a lot because we learn a lot about him and we understand that he has demons, and yet he's this kind of brusque guy. Roland describes him when he walks in with his briefcase and his nicely cut but still wrinkled suit as looking like a salesman on his last call of the day. And when I wrote that line, I thought that was a really good line, and it made me want to know what this Dalton Strait cat is really all about. And really, the book is all about him.
Yeah. But I found it really hard to dislike him completely.
Good.
There was a very, I felt a very compelling sort of real, underneath all of that facade, he just was insecure, but also narcissistic. I mean, he just had so many kind of layers to him, and it was easy. It seemed easy at first to just kind of peg him as one kind of character, but I found that he sort of grew on me, and then there were moments where it was just like, oh,
Yeah,
you
well,
really are horrible.
he is both. He is horrible, and he's disarmingly funny sometimes, and
Yeah.
he's you know, he's that funny combination you get in people who are extravagantly egotistical and somehow ignorant of themselves at the same time. You know, he's not aware of himself and how he affects other people, and he's not even aware of other people really. But he's got this big attitude and this big handshake, and he's a charmer. And he gets your vote, you know. And but kind of goes past him as the book goes on. You know, in the opening scene, he's this troubled politician whose wife has seriously and he's kind of a brusque, you know, dislikable guy. And as the book goes on, let's take on different things. And I think one of the things about Dalton is whether hero or not, because you know, he gets a Purple Heart for having his lower his leg, you know, blown up by an and he also gets a medal from a burning vehicle just a few weeks prior to him. Alton did that burning vehicle, and what he didn't do, his status as hero is brought in question. At the same time, sympathy for him as a tried Marine risking his life on this dirty street and getting shot at by these people while his sergeant burns in a vehicle is your heart goes out to him, and you realize how complicated his life is since then, because he carries this banner and this flag and these trophies, if you will, that really aren't completely his.
Yeah.
I like that about him. I spent a lot of time thinking about, when I came to the ending of that book, I spent a lot of time, a lot of hours devoted to asking myself what his fate should be, what Dalton Straight's fate as a character should be. You know, what does he deserve? What does the story need? Who how do we wrap up the story, and what should Dalton do? You know, he live or die? Should he become the hero he was? Should he try to become hero? Because and these are all things that you ask yourself as you come to the end of a book. A book needs a good end. It has to have good and wrong. I hope we'll think he's got a little bit. I mean, he finds himself in this book. He finds himself literally tricked into the border in Mexico.
That was a wild scene.
It's
hey,
a
guys,
wild
can you hear
scene,
me?
and it's done. And when Mike Lark Roland and Mike Lark was a party to that, comes that close to rules, but Roland Gable in the book on account of Julie.
I think
Can you guys hear me?
frozen.
There.
I'll just
Adrian, Jeff?
Or question.
You're freezing. I guess
was missing, and admiring brother in this kind of crazy hippie underworld of Laguna Beach. And that's I'd give you the title if I had one, but I don't have one yet. I started writing a book in March, just coincidental with the lockdown. And since March, say 6 months has passed, and I've written more and faster and better pages with this new book, this Laguna story, than I've ever written in my life. I think it's the best thing I've ever done. And I can't wait to spring it on you. It's coming together really, really nicely. And
is there a
I'm looking
pub
forward.
date?
No, there isn't.
Can you
There's a
guys hear me?
deadline, but there's no pub date. There's no title. It's just it's under contract with Forge, part of Macmillan, and they're going to be publishing it. And I'm certain it'll be next year, Adrian. I don't see how it could take longer than that. It certainly isn't going to be this year. So yeah, that's what I'm going on. I wish I had a title. I would give it to you. But it's something that's captured my imagination. I wrote about that time in that place in California Girl, many years ago. And one of the reasons that I think California Girl was one of my better books, and why I think this new one next year is going to be one of my better books, is that I was able to experience that crazy time, 1968, in Orange County, partially in Laguna Beach, when I was 14 years old. So I saw that panorama of Nixon and the war and the protests and the drugs and the music and the clothes and the hippies and the summer of love and all of that as a 14-year-old, which is a very impressionable age. As a 14-year-old, you are completely attuned. Your eyes are good, your ears are good, your mind is limber. You're smart, you're receptive, you're like a sponge, but you have no experience. So you see and you sense things going around you, but you don't have any experience to judge them against. Yeah. And so there's a sense of wonder, I think, that young adolescents have, that I had when I would go to Laguna Beach in 1968 as a 14-year-old and look around me at the people and the things that were going on. So for me, there was kind of magic in the air at that time. And as a 14-year-old, I was hypnotized by 1968 in Laguna. And so anyway, I'm going back to that time and that sense of wonder, I think, as I create this boy, this 16-year-old boy who's looking for his sister. And it's a good crime story too. He has to find her because she's gone, and the police are having no luck. There's just hundreds of runaways everywhere. They're looking for in this kind of seething world of music on every is what Matt is up against.
Adrian, can you guys hear me? We're having some serious technical difficulties.
There you are.
There I am. We're bounced off of Facebook Live.
Oh, is that what happened?
Yeah. So we've got it's recording.
Oh, I see that.
Yeah. So it's recording. So I'm going to record. Hopefully, it kept recording. And Jeff, for whatever reason, my picture of you is gone now. So I don't know where. There you are.
Oh.
Now you're back.
You got me?
Gotcha. So it kicked us off of Facebook Live, but like I said, so we're still recording. So I'm going to just put this recording onto Facebook after we're done.
Okay.
So
is our audience still there? Are our readers still there?
No, because they they were, and then then all the comments went away because they kicked us off. You know what I mean? So now I'm just
Oh,
getting the
well,
comments
that's
back.
cool. If we're recording it, we can play. They can play it again.
Yeah, and I can put it back on there for people. So there was a lot of, you know, there was somebody named Pam was chatting in. Somebody gave you the how do you say the oorah with all of the correct syllables they put in
Good,
there.
yeah.
So I was cracking
Yeah.
up. So I was like, I'm not going to
Good.
even try and do that.
Good.
So,
Me neither. Yeah, that's
yeah.
their thing. Yeah.
Exactly.
Cool.
So,
Good.
anyways, I mean, if Facebook, yeah, sometimes that happens this time of night because it's really there's so many people on and so much stuff going on with the technology. So that's we used to freak out about people not showing up at the store. Now we freak out about the technology not working.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool.
Julie, did you have other questions?
Well, so I was kind of caught up in trying to deal with that. So I don't.
Yeah.
So if I'm repeating some of these, apologize. But let's see, where was I at with some of this? Hold on. I had some. Okay, here's one. Just like as a writer. So, what's one piece of advice you would give to an aspiring writer, or the best piece of advice the best piece of advice you ever got?
You know, I think it's twofold. One is read a lot and read up. Read the good writers.
Mm-hmm.
Two, if you're a beginning writer of any age, carve out for yourself 1 hour of each day to write. And then you can't check email, you can't have your phone handy, and you can't have the TV on, you can't have people around you. Close the door, give yourself an hour, and do your damnedest to write a page. And if you can do that at the end of 365 days, 1 year, you'll have a 365-page manuscript, and that's a good start on a book. So 1 page at a time is how you do it. And the way you write a page of good prose is to have read enough of them to know what it sounds like and know what it looks like and know what it does to your what it does to your heart when you read something good. And if you can get an hour a day, that's a great way to begin. And protect that hour, fight for it, because people take it away from you. They'll try.
Well, and try and do it. I mean, you have to treat it like, if you're serious about it, you have to treat it like a job. I mean, you have to treat it like it's that important. It's like exercising or whatever you're doing.
But I like that advice.
Really good point. That's a good point. Yeah, because it's not, writing isn't always, fun, and it's not you're not always inspired, but you do need to sit down and put in that hour or that 8 hours, and in my case, however many you can get. And that's important, because you learn to write through you learn to write through your own fear and your own lassitude, sometimes your own distractedness. If you're in the chair applying yourself, you will build muscles that will get you through the tough times, so that when you hit a passage and it's your turn to write it, and you've got the chops and you're inspired, it's the most wonderful feeling in the world. Writing is occasionally exhilarating, and don't ever forget that, and try to get there. Try to keep in that zone of exhilaration and inspiration as long as you can. And when you get up in the morning and it's time for your hour and you feel flat and you feel crummy, you don't want to do it, sit down and do it anyway.
Yeah, because it is. I mean, because that's the thing, is like, and it's got to come from your heart. But it's even like I was saying earlier, like when you go to exercise, nobody wants to get up and do it every day, but you do it, and then you feel better afterwards. Probably the same thing with writing,
Yeah.
Although looking at this space during
COVID,
not doing much exercise these days during COVID. Maybe I should start writing. Okay, what else do I have here? Okay, so speaking of the shutdown and stuff, and you've been writing a lot or reading, or what have you been doing mostly during the shutdown?
I'm glad you asked, because it's been a really strange time for me. Obviously I'm one of the fortunate people who can work at home, and I always have been. So my no changes there for me. I didn't have to really adjust to anything by being locked down here in Fallbrook. And so what I found myself doing was spending a lot more time writing, spending more time writing and less, no travel, hardly any obligations or interruptions, or nothing really to do. I'm literally not supposed to leave, where I am, and tours canceled. promotional stuff. All the big book festivals, vanished from, Tucson and then LA and then, whatever's next. And San Diego's gone virtual. They're not going to have our festival as planned. So anyway, what this has resulted in, as I was mentioning to Adrian, is the pages of this new book, which I'm inspired about and I'm really having fun writing, they're just flying out of the printer. I mean, I've got pages just literally stacked up left and right at a pace and a rate that I've never experienced before. So I've been working hard, and I think I've been channeling my anxieties and my worry about and my anger about the COVID into my work. I mean, I make no illusion that I'm not doing that. I am doing that, and it's my constructive way of chopping wood, and the chopping is going really well, and I'm like it. I'm really lucky too that I happened to start this 1968 Laguna Beach novel back in March when COVID was just shutting us down, because it took me psychically, artistically, if you will, literary sense, it took me far, far, far away from COVID. I don't have to deal with COVID right now on the page, and I know I'm going to have to someday, and I'm not looking forward to that particularly. I feel a little bit intimidated by that, just like I felt intimidated after 9/11. And so I'm really happy right now to be in my little office here writing about yesteryear, a time that was, for me as a young boy, kind of magical and charmed and forever emblazoned in my memory. So that's what I've been doing with the extra time, if you will. I've been writing.
Yeah, because I mean, then you can't really go out and do anything anyway, so you can create the own world that you're living in, create, you're in your own brain, so that's awesome.
Yeah, that's literally what I'm doing, Julie. It's funny, I mean, I love my property, and I love walking the property and doing home improvement and taking care of things and making sure the cars are clean and everything, even though we're not going anywhere. But how much of that can you do?
Right.
There just isn't that much. And I find myself drawn back here into this office in 1968, into this world of wonder that I am writing about and remembering at the same time. It's really kind of cool.
Yeah, because
What
I know
a
when
blessing that is.
Yeah, it really is. And well, and Adrian, I know you and I've talked about it, and I think a lot of, and Jeff, I'm sure you've talked to other people. People are having a hard time even reading and concentrating, especially at the beginning of this. But now I think people are back into the, wanting to so they're getting into the books and reading. So any kind of escape that we all can do for our own mental health is so awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you're turning this.
It's so true,
Yeah, you're turning this really crazy situation into something, you're going to have this really great product when you're done. And I think that's really amazing, because I know that a lot of people are struggling to just kind of go through the basic, because I think we miss the connection. It's I've been working through the whole thing, and I've been happy to be working, but it's still not the same as being able to get together with friends and that type of thing. So I think the fact that you're able to be so productive creatively is just awesome.
Yeah, it's really been a blessing. I mentioned the new book to one of my radio interviewers this morning, and he said 1968 Laguna Beach. That sounds like escapism to me. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what it is.
Well, for sure, because I mean, I was pretty little, but I mean, you still remember what it was, and it's just like, it's beaches, it's good music, it's hot summer days. That's what's awesome. Okay, we're kind of running out of our time here, so we're going to go to our lightning round, and this is where we find out a little bit more about who Jeff Parker is.
Okay.
So Adrian, I'm going to start, but do you have you see what you're going to ask? Because I'll start it. All right.
Okay.
What's your first concert?
Jethro Tull, Anaheim Convention Center, 1968.
Awesome.
Wow.
Oh, well, is that part of the book?
Maybe I'll get it in. I should.
This is, I love this question. What will be the first thing or place you'll go after the shutdown is lifted?
Rosa's Cafe in Fallbrook for the ceviche and the salsa and the great Mexican food. And that's where I'm headed. I'm gonna beat a path to Rosa's.
Love it. What's your favorite beverage?
Beverage? Oh, well, red wine from Bordeaux.
Best old movie?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I like, does Chinatown count, or is that like a new
Yeah.
movie? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chinatown. Yeah, I don't know. Does The Godfather count? Is that old enough? I don't know.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. See, those are those movies that come along when you're 14 and 16 that,
Yeah.
along with Laguna Beach in 1968, that just stick with you, like the music and the movies and what you're
Yeah.
reading when you're an adolescent. It forms your life in interesting ways. And so, yeah, those two come to mind for sure.
Best question an audience member ever asked you.
Best question? Oh boy, I don't know. I'll pass on that one.
All right.
I can tell you. I can tell you
Or
the
an
most
embarrassing one.
the most difficult to answer is where do you get your ideas?
And everybody always asks that. Their hand goes up, and it's like, where do you
Yeah.
get your ideas? Or it's like, who knows?
Yeah. And I used to get a lot of what's the T stand for? T. Jefferson Parker. And so I started making that, answering that question as part of my self-introduction when I come to your store, whatever, or and talk about how I was given that T as a decorative initial by my parents.
I love that.
Okay, what's
story.
next?
Okay, Adrian, you skipped one. Do you see what you skipped?
Favorite food?
Yep.
Favorite food? Oh gosh, I really do like crab legs.
That's so. My birthday's next week. That's what I'm making Tom.
Now I want some.
They're so good. Okay, so then we are out of time. Social media. Do you love it or do you hate it? And if you love it, which way people are going to follow you? Where should they follow you?
Well, I tweet, I got a little tweet following, Twitter following, and I'm on Facebook with an author's page, and I have a nice website. I'm not much of a social media guy. I didn't grow up with it. I don't do real well with it, and I don't mean to be antisocial at all. I'm not antisocial with people one bit, but social media is not something that I've have any chops at right now. My beautiful wife Rita is kind enough to step in and help me, answer things and participate when I should. But I'm not a fan, and I don't know if I'll ever get to have like millions of followers.
It's kind of that necessary. It's one of those things, especially it seems like in these days with publishing and stuff, it's becoming a little more necessary for authors' engagement a little bit more through the social media.
Yeah.
And so good, bad, or indifferent, it's just one of the tools that everybody needs to, or that uses now. So
that's totally true. Yeah, there's no getting around it, and sometimes, I actually look forward to tweeting. I can get a good idea or a thought that I can get, into a succinct sentence or two, or, a book I've read maybe, or just whatever it might be.
Yeah.
I do like kind of, posting brief things, and I always feel guilty like I'm taking up too much of people's time by asking them to read my tweet, but that's not the point, The point is to offer something of yourself to people who might be interested,
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, you have fans out there that want to hear from you, and that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's like you kind of are in that, you write the book, and that used to be enough back in the day, and now it's like people just want more and more because everybody is more accessible now, and so it's just you kind of do have to put a barrier up every once in a while, though, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, Jeff, this was fun. I hope you had fun.
Hey.
Sorry for the technical
Thank you.
difficulties. I'm going to take us, I just want to remind people, if you've made it this far on the video, that Jeff's book's available at Warwick's. We can ship it to you. You can come by and pick it up. Next year, when we're out of COVID, you'll be the first person we're going to call and say, come back to the store.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'll be there. I'll be knocking on the door.
Yeah, we need to see you. We need to see you live. So
Yeah.
I'm going to take us off of Facebook, whatever was happening there. And I'm going to stop the recording. So thank you. And see you guys.
Good seeing you both. Thank you so much.
Cheers.
God bless you.